You'll see this when you're ready to change, not before, not when life is convenient, not when the world finally gives you permission. You'll see it the moment you stop making excuses, the moment you stop blaming your circumstances, the moment you realize that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself. Change doesn't come to the passive. Change doesn't knock on the door of the person who is waiting for the perfect moment. It comes to the person who decides, enough is enough. I am done living by default. I am ready to take control of my life. And when you decide that, suddenly the universe seems to open doors that were invisible before. Suddenly, opportunities appear in ways you never imagined. You'll see clarity where before there was confusion, and you'll see strength you didn't even know existed within you. Think about it. How many times have you waited for someone else to fix things? How many times have you waited for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect motivation? The truth is, waiting is an illusion. Waiting is a trap. Life moves on whether you move with it or stay frozen in fear. And when you finally say, I am ready, everything shifts. The obstacles that seemed impossible start to shrink. The fears that haunted you start to lose their power. And the person you once were, the one who thought change was impossible, becomes the person who knows that transformation is inevitable. But here's the secret, it's never about motivation. Motivation is temporary. What makes change permanent is a decision, a commitment, a burning, undeniable decision that you will no longer accept mediocrity in your life, that you will no longer accept excuses, that you will no longer accept anything less than the highest version of yourself. When you make that decision, everything else falls into place. You start to take action that aligns with your goals. You start to think differently. You start to demand more from yourself, and life responds in kind. And don't be fooled. Change is not easy, growth is uncomfortable, transformation is demanding. But here's what's beautiful. Every time you push through, every time you face the discomfort, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your fears, smarter than your doubts, and more capable than you ever imagined. You'll see the path you need to take only when you're willing to walk it, step by step, day by day, with relentless determination. So, if you're waiting for the signs, stop. The signs were there all along. You'll see them only when you're ready, not when life says you should, not when circumstances force you, but when you decide that your life is worth the effort. When you decide that the best version of yourself is not somewhere in the future but here, waiting for you to claim it. The moment you take that step, everything you've been blind to becomes clear. Everything you've been avoiding becomes possible, and everything you've been dreaming of becomes your reality. So today, make the decision. Stop waiting, stop blaming, stop wishing. Take the step that your future self has been waiting for, and watch as your life transforms before your very eyes. Change comes only when you decide you're ready. Not when someone else tells you it's time. Not when life hands you an easy path, or when circumstances are convenient. True change is never delivered on a silver platter, and the truth is, most people spend their lives waiting for the world to give them permission to transform. They wait for a moment when everything aligns perfectly, when the stars are in the right position, when they suddenly feel motivated enough to take the first step. But the reality is that perfect timing is a myth. Life is chaotic, unpredictable, and relentless. If you wait for the perfect moment, you will spend your entire life waiting, and nothing will ever move forward. Change begins the moment you make a decision that is so strong, so uncompromising, that you refuse to settle for the life you are living. You refuse to accept the excuses you have been telling yourself. You refuse to allow fear, comfort, or doubt to dictate your actions any longer. Deciding to change is not a casual choice. It is not a wish or a hope. It is a declaration to yourself that you are done with living by default. You are done with letting circumstances, other people's opinions, or past failures define who you are or what you can achieve. This decision requires clarity. You must see the gap between the life you are living and the life you want so vividly, that it becomes unbearable to stay where you are. You must feel the frustration of knowing you are capable of more, of knowing that there is a version of yourself who is thriving, achieving, and living with purpose, and that this version is waiting for you to step forward. The moment you feel that discomfort, that inner urge to stop wasting time and start taking control, you are ready for change. Many people believe that change is about learning new skills, reading more books, or following a certain formula. While those things can help, they are not the trigger. The trigger is within you, in the moment you decide that enough is enough. When you make a choice that your life will no longer be defined by excuses, you start to see opportunities you never noticed before. The doors that seemed closed begin to open. People, resources, and circumstances start to align in ways that appear almost magical. But this is not magic. It is the consequence of a committed mind, of energy focused with purpose, of someone who refuses to remain stagnant. The universe responds to decision, not hesitation. Waiting for readiness is a trap because it gives you the illusion of control while keeping you stagnant. You think, I will be ready when I feel brave enough, or I will be ready when I have enough resources, or I will be ready when the timing is perfect. These are all excuses dressed as logic. Courage is not something you wait to feel. It is something you summon when the alternative, staying the same, is no longer acceptable. Action does not require permission. It requires a decision, a commitment, and the willingness to take the first step, even when you feel uncertain or scared. That first step, no matter how small, begins the chain reaction that transforms your life. Deciding to change also means accepting that discomfort is part of the process. Growth always pushes against your comfort zone. The moment you stop resisting discomfort and start seeing it as a signal that you are moving forward, your perspective shifts. Challenges that once seemed impossible are no longer paralyzing because you have already made the decision to move forward despite fear. Your mind begins to focus on solutions rather than problems. Your energy is directed toward progress rather than stagnation. And suddenly, the world that once felt overwhelming becomes a field of opportunity waiting for you to claim. Your readiness to change is not measured by how prepared you feel. It is measured by the intensity of your desire to live differently. When you truly want something, when you are no longer willing to settle for less than your potential, you will take action. You will seek out knowledge, resources, mentors, and experiences that accelerate your transformation. You will face your fears head on, and you will refuse to be limited by old patterns or outdated beliefs. Readiness is not a state of waiting, it is a state of decision, commitment, and unrelenting determination. Transformation is driven by decisions and commitment, not temporary motivation. Many people wait for motivation to strike, hoping for a sudden surge of energy or inspiration that will push them to act. But motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind, unreliable and unpredictable. And if you rely on it, you will spend most of your life sitting on the sidelines waiting for something that may never come. Motivation can give you a push for a moment, but it cannot sustain you through the challenges, the setbacks, the obstacles that inevitably arise when you are pursuing growth and change. True transformation is not about feeling ready. It is about deciding to move forward anyway, deciding to act regardless of your current state of mind, energy, or comfort level. A decision is more powerful than motivation because it creates a commitment that goes beyond emotion. Decisions are declarations. They are statements to yourself and to the world that you are done with your current limitations, done with your excuses, and ready to take full responsibility for your life. When you make a decision, you no longer depend on how you feel. You depend on your own power, your own will, and your own choices. Commitment is the engine that turns decisions into results, because it creates consistency in action. Motivation might get you started, but commitment keeps you going when the excitement fades, when the initial enthusiasm wears off, when the challenges feel heavier than your desire. Commitment requires clarity and focus. You must know exactly what you want, why you want it, and what you are willing to do to achieve it. The moment you are clear about your vision, your goals, and your values, you can make a decision that aligns every action you take with that vision. Clarity fuels commitment, and commitment fuels transformation. Without clarity, decisions are weak and easily swayed by doubt, fear, or distractions. With clarity, every obstacle becomes a challenge to overcome rather than a reason to quit, and every failure becomes a lesson to learn rather than a reason to give up. Transformation also requires sacrifice. It demands that you give up the familiar, the comfortable, and the convenient. It demands that you break old habits, challenge old beliefs, and face fears that you have avoided for years. Motivation alone cannot get you through the discomfort that comes with growth. Only a deep, unwavering commitment can sustain you when you are stretched, when you are tested, when the path forward seems unclear or impossible. Commitment is what allows you to keep taking action, day after day, even when you are tired, discouraged, or uncertain. Motivation might get you out of bed for one morning, but commitment ensures that you continue showing up for your life every single day. Another key to transformation is taking responsibility. Decisions and commitment are meaningless if you blame circumstances, other people, or the past for where you are now. Transformation happens when you stop pointing fingers and start taking ownership. You understand that your results are a direct reflection of your actions, your choices, and your willingness to do what is necessary. You no longer wait for the world to change. You change yourself first, and as you do, everything around you shifts in response. Responsibility creates power because it gives you control over your destiny, and when combined with commitment, it creates unstoppable momentum. Finally, transformation is a process, not a single event. It is not about a sudden burst of motivation, a miraculous opportunity, or a lucky break. It is about consistent, committed action over time, about making the decision every day to do what is necessary, to push past discomfort, and to align every thought, feeling, and action with your highest vision. When you make a decision, commit to it fully and take responsibility for your life. Transformation is inevitable because you are no longer relying on chance, luck, or fleeting inspiration. You are relying on yourself, on your power, and on your unwavering commitment. Obstacles and fears shrink when you take action aligned with your highest self. Many people live their lives paralyzed by fear, imagining worst case scenarios and waiting for conditions to be perfect before making a move. They allow obstacles to loom larger than they really are, giving power to things that in reality are only temporary or imagined. Fear grows in the absence of action. The moment you decide to step forward, even in the face of uncertainty, fear begins to lose its grip. Every action you take that moves you closer to your goals diminishes the power of fear and reduces the weight of obstacles. What once seemed insurmountable becomes manageable because you have chosen to engage, to confront, and to rise above. Action aligned with your highest self requires self-awareness. It requires that you know who you are, what you value, and what you are willing to fight for. When your actions are consistent with your deepest values and your highest vision for yourself, obstacles no longer intimidate you in the same way. Challenges become tests, not roadblocks. Problems become puzzles, not prisons. The energy you put into moving forward aligns with a force far greater than doubt or hesitation, and suddenly, what seemed impossible starts to feel inevitable. Alignment between action and your highest self creates momentum, and momentum has the power to carry you through fear, resistance, and uncertainty. Fears are often illusions, magnified by our imagination and reinforced by past failure. We spend hours, days, or even years thinking about what could go wrong instead of focusing on what could go right. But the truth is, obstacles exist only to the degree that we allow them to. They are neutral until we assign them meaning. The moment you take intentional action, the meaning changes. Obstacles become opportunities to learn, to grow, and to prove your resilience. Fear becomes a signal that you are moving in the right direction, that you are stretching beyond your comfort zone, and that transformation is occurring. The act of facing fear head-on, of moving despite doubt, gradually erodes its power until it is no longer a barrier to your progress. Consistency in action is key. One bold move may reduce fear temporarily, but repeated action is what transforms your perception of obstacles permanently. When you continuously push forward, you develop confidence in your ability to handle challenges. You begin to understand that fear is not something to avoid, but something to manage, to channel, and to harness. The more you act, the smaller obstacles appear, because your mind begins to recognize that your capacity for problem solving, resilience, and adaptation is far greater than the difficulties you face. The energy that fear once consumed now fuels your determination, your focus, and your drive. Action aligned with your highest self also inspires creativity and resourcefulness. When you are committed to moving forward and refuse to let fear dictate your choices, your mind starts to generate solutions you never imagined. You begin to see possibilities where before there was only limitation. You discover strengths you didn't know you had. You uncover courage buried beneath hesitation. Action transforms your relationship with obstacles because it shifts your focus from what could go wrong to what must go right, from what is stopping you to what you are capable of achieving. The very act of moving forward, even imperfectly, reduces the intimidation of challenges and expands your sense of possibility. Taking aligned action requires a mindset of empowerment. You must believe that no matter what stands in your way, you have the ability to navigate, adapt, and overcome. You must understand that obstacles are temporary, that fear is a feeling, not a fact, and that every step you take builds your capacity for more. When your actions are aligned with your highest self, every challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate your commitment, your resilience, and your vision. You stop shrinking from fear and start using it as fuel to propel you forward. You begin to see obstacles not as walls, but as gateways to the next level of your potential. The moment you align action with your highest self, you also start to attract the right circumstances, people, and resources. The universe responds to energy and clarity, and when your actions are focused, intentional, and aligned, opportunities appear that were invisible before. Obstacles shrink not because they disappear, but because you grow stronger, smarter, and more capable than the challenges themselves. Fear loses its control, uncertainty becomes manageable, and you begin to realize that the power to overcome has always been within you. Growth is uncomfortable, but every challenge proves your strength and capability. Too many people avoid growth because they confuse comfort with safety and safety with success. They cling to routines, familiar patterns, and predictable outcomes, believing that avoiding discomfort will protect them from failure, rejection, or pain. But comfort is a trap. It is a cage disguised as safety, and it slowly erodes potential while promising nothing but stagnation. True growth cannot happen in comfort because growth requires expansion, and expansion demands stretching beyond what is familiar. The moment you step outside your comfort zone, you begin to stretch your mind, body, and spirit. And every step of that stretch is proof that you are stronger, smarter, and more capable than you believed. Challenges are not enemies. They are signals. They are indicators that you are moving in the right direction, that you are attempting something meaningful, and that you are confronting the limits that have held you back. Every challenge, no matter how difficult, is an opportunity to discover what you are truly made of. The struggle is not a punishment, it is a teacher. It shows you the areas where you are capable of growth, where your resilience can expand, and where your courage can deepen. When you embrace challenges instead of avoiding them, you begin to see them as essential to your transformation rather than obstacles in your path. Discomfort is the language of growth. It tells you that you are moving beyond your past limitations, that you are confronting fears that have defined your life, and that you are creating a new version of yourself. The moment you start leaning into discomfort instead of recoiling from it, you develop a resilience that cannot be shaken by setbacks or failure. You learn that discomfort is not a signal to stop, but a signal to accelerate. You learn that every time you face difficulty, you are strengthening your mind, body, and spirit, and you are creating habits, patterns, and beliefs that support lasting transformation. Growth happens in the tension between who you are and who you are becoming. Every challenge you face is also an opportunity to build confidence. Confidence does not come from avoiding problems or succeeding without effort. Confidence comes from repeatedly stepping into the unknown, taking action despite fear, and seeing yourself overcome obstacles that once seemed impossible. Each time you confront a challenge and persist, you are proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagine. Your self-belief grows because it is earned through action, through facing adversity, and through the willingness to push forward when others might turn back. The challenges themselves become evidence of your strength. Growth also demands consistency. Facing one difficult situation may give a temporary boost of courage, but lasting transformation requires continual engagement with challenges. It is the repeated acts of pushing beyond comfort, confronting fear, and taking bold action that compound over time to create extraordinary results. Each day you choose growth over comfort. You accumulate momentum, and that momentum carries you through obstacles that might have once seemed insurmountable. Over time, your mind begins to rewire itself to embrace discomfort as a signal of progress, and your body and spirit begin to trust that you are capable of handling more than you ever thought possible. Moreover, growth teaches adaptability. Life is unpredictable and challenges will always arise. The ability to navigate discomfort, overcome obstacles, and persist despite setbacks equips you with a skill set that extends far beyond the immediate challenge. You develop resourcefulness, problem-solving skills, and a mindset of abundance rather than limitation. You learn to see opportunities in difficulties, solutions in problems, and lessons in setbacks. Every challenge you face strengthens not only your current path, but also your capacity to thrive in future circumstances that you cannot yet imagine. Growth is also deeply personal. It forces you to confront who you really are, to question beliefs that have held you back, and to redefine what is possible for your life. Each challenge is a mirror reflecting your strengths and weaknesses, your courage and hesitation, your potential and your limits. The more you embrace growth, the more you understand yourself, the more clarity you gain about what you value, and the more intentional you become in designing the life you want. The uncomfortable path of growth is the only path that leads to mastery, fulfillment, and true transformation. The signs for change are always present. You'll see them only when you choose to act. Many people spend their entire lives looking for a signal, a moment, a confirmation from the universe that it is time to transform. But the truth is that the universe has been sending those signals all along. Every challenge, every failure, every uncomfortable moment is a sign pointing you toward growth. Every feeling of dissatisfaction, every moment of longing, every realization that you are capable of more is a signal that change is possible. The difference between those who transform their lives and those who remain stuck is not the presence of signs. It is the willingness to notice them and respond. Signs are subtle. They do not always appear in bold or obvious ways. Sometimes they come as a quiet whisper in your intuition, a persistent feeling that something must shift, a small opportunity that seems too easy to ignore, or a moment of insight that sparks curiosity. Too often, people dismiss these signs because they are afraid, because they are comfortable, or because they are waiting for a grand, undeniable event. But life rarely delivers in dramatic, unmistakable packages. Transformation comes in the form of small, consistent nudges that are ignored by those who are not ready, and embraced by those who are prepared to act. Choosing to see the signs requires presence and awareness. It requires that you stop moving through life on autopilot, going from one task to the next, reacting to circumstances instead of consciously observing them. When you cultivate awareness, you start to notice patterns, opportunities, and possibilities that were invisible before. You begin to recognize the moments where action can change the course of your life. You start to understand that every challenge, every disappointment, and every frustration is a signal designed to push you toward growth. The signs have always been there, but only when you are ready will your mind and heart be aligned enough to recognize them. Action is the key. Seeing the signs is not enough if you do not respond. The signs are useless without action because transformation is created through movement, through choice, and through decision. Every time you take a step toward your vision, you are answering the signs, saying yes to growth, and proving to yourself that you are ready. Action turns potential into reality, insight into experience, and possibility into achievement. The moment you act, you start a ripple effect that brings clarity, momentum, and opportunities that you could not have foreseen. The signs are the invitation, and your action is the acceptance. Resistance often masks the signs. Fear, doubt, and comfort can cloud your perception, making you blind to the very signals that are designed to guide you. You may feel stuck, unsure, or overwhelmed, and in that state, the signs may seem hidden or non-existent. But when you push past resistance, when you stop waiting for permission from circumstances, and when you step forward despite uncertainty, the signs become unmistakable. You start to see the connections, the opportunities, and the pathways that have been available all along. What was once invisible becomes visible, and what was once unattainable becomes reachable. The readiness to recognize signs is tied to your inner commitment. When you are fully committed to growth, to transformation, and to creating the life you desire, your mind naturally scans for the signals that will guide you. You begin to notice patterns in people, in circumstances, and in your own emotions that were previously overlooked. You become sensitive to opportunities, lessons, and feedback that push you closer to your vision. The signs were always present, but readiness is what allows you to interpret them correctly, to trust them, and to act upon them. Every sign is also a challenge. It tests your willingness to move, your courage to step into the unknown, and your persistence to continue when obstacles arise. You will not always receive clear instructions or perfect timing, but the signs are there to be seized, to be followed, and to be acted upon. When you develop the habit of noticing the signs, responding decisively, and trusting your inner guidance, you create a life in which change is no longer something that happens by chance, but something you direct with intention and purpose. The ultimate truth is that transformation does not wait for you to feel ready. The signs are present whether you notice them or not. Life is constantly inviting you to evolve, to grow, and to reach your highest potential. The only difference between those who transform and those who remain stagnant is the choice to see, to act, and to respond with courage, clarity, and commitment.